Thank you. And also, Joel Geske has asked me if it's okay if we kind of jump around, because there's some things on the agenda that need to be addressed sooner than later. And we do have 2 separate meetings, so we may go back and forth a couple times, right?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock. We are going to open up the Property and Recreation meeting. First item I have is approval of Property and Rec minutes from October 8th, 2025.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by CJ,
Second.
second by Annette. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. First item is public participation. The first person who has signed up is David Kuiken.
Good morning. I'm a resident of Manteno, and I'm a veteran. And when this whole thing started at the end of August, beginning of September of 2023, I started coming to village board meetings. Even started coming to these ridiculous 7 o'clock meetings. Madam Mayor, you and I were here a lot together. At a couple of the village board meetings, I heard people read parts of Goshen's, I'm getting old, I'm at a loss for words, but they're swearing allegiance to the CCP. And heard it a couple times, and we've had 2 years for someone to refute that. And so far, I haven't heard that. And I just think, yesterday I was thinking of all the vets that fought the CCP in Korea and Vietnam. And I'm sorry, but I think most of those vets would agree that you just are spitting in their face. This is not a good thing. Mr. Crockett, if this is your vision for the village of Manteno, it's a nightmare. If this is being taught in our schools that this is a good thing, that these are our friends, it's a good case for homeschooling. I'm beyond myself as far as trying to wrap good things around this. It was good things for Mr. Nugent. His family got rich off of it. I don't care what Goshen gives to our village, what sponsorships they hold. The only presentation I want to see from Goshen is a farewell card. Thank you.
Next participant is Tiffany Parpar.
This is really for the next meeting? So are you just doing public participation all right now?
Yeah. that's
Okay.
fine.
I'm gonna try to talk slow this time. All right, good morning. As most of you already know, my name is Tiffany Parpart. My husband and I own 3 small businesses here in Manteno. Clearly, we love this town enough to invest in it, not just financially, but personally and relationally. This is our home, and we care deeply about its future. First, I want to thank all of the trustees who met with me to discuss this topic. I truly appreciate you. And to those who never responded to my emails, why not respond? I'm just a citizen who wants to talk about the things that affect me, and I believe that you are voted to represent people like myself. That said, I'm here today to respectfully but firmly express my opposition to the proposed short-term rental tax. Now, I want to be clear, this isn't personal. I have great respect for Mrs. Gavin and the work she does for Kankakee County, but this conversation isn't about one person or one organization. It's about stewardship, priorities, and whether this partnership truly serves Manteno. As a small business owner, I understand that what it means to manage limited resources. Let me just give you an example. This summer, we have realized our coffee shop could use more new tables. The tables are kind of wobbly, they're kind of falling apart, they're really scratched, they've been used. Hang on, let me just make sure I don't get off track here. Okay, so our tables are in rough shape. We need new tables. I have been saving and I have been putting aside money to buy new tables. And guess what? My ice machine went out this summer. So guess where that money went? To the ice machine. So we do not have new tables. I am now slowly saving for my new tables because I'm being a good steward of what money I have coming in. I'm not asking my customers to pay extra so I can get something that we need. So that was a tangent, sorry. I believe that the village should do the same, being thoughtful, resourceful, and responsible with the dollars it already receives. Adding another tax, even one that technically falls on the customer, is not good stewardship. Illinois already has a tax problem, and frankly, Manteno residents are feeling that squeeze too. At some point, we have to say enough is enough. Growth doesn't come from adding new taxes. It comes from managing what we already have well. Before moving forward with this tax, I have to ask you, have you truly consulted with the people it will affect? I haven't been asked, I haven't been asked, and I'm sure other short-term rental owners have not been asked either. Most short-term rental guests in Manteno aren't tourists coming because of regional marketing campaigns. They're families here for weddings. They're contractors here working on local projects. Can I finish?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll be fast. I'm trying to slow down so I don't talk so fast. They're coming from Manteno because Manteno is welcoming, family-centered, and not just a Visit Kankakee brochure. So just to test that theory, I recently Googled things to do in Manteno. You know what popped up first? Prairie Farm. Where's that? Bourbonnais. Kankakee State Park. That's not in Manteno. And the Strickler Planetarium from Olivet. All wonderful places, but none of those are in Manteno. And maybe that's the problem when we are part of a regional marketing effort. The bigger towns get bigger piece of the pie. So I ask again, why are we going to add another tax to participate in this regional marketing effort? But hey, what do I know? I'm just a small business owner who spends every single day listening to the people of this village and working with and visiting this town. So I'm asking you, before this is up for a vote, ask questions. Talk to the people of Manteno. Talk to the short-term rental owners. Ask Visit Kankakee how they're gonna track their success for Manteno. I stand here asking you, please do not approve this tax. Let's keep Manteno dollars in Manteno. Let's invest directly in our own marketing. Jacob Knox does a great job. Let's model what responsible, thoughtful leadership looks like. Let's focus on unity and healing, not new taxes. Let's stand with our residents and our small business owners and say enough is enough. Let's be good stewards of what we already have. Thank you for listening.
Before moving on to the next item, Tiffany, just in response, the agenda item today has nothing to do with the taxation for the rental. This is a licensing agreement, just so you know. Okay? The next item we have is the Interact Club.
Carlisle, and I am the president of Interact at Manteno High School.
My name is Mitchell Boyd, and I'm the vice president of the Interact Club.
So just a little background, Interact is a club at the high school partnered with the Manteno Rotary Club, and our mission is just to volunteer and interact with. Some of the things we do is we volunteer at the Jingle Bell Run or the Good Shepherd Manor, just handing out food. Many other things along the lines of that.
Today we're here to run by an idea I've been thinking for a little while that'll help keep our parks clean and offer volunteer opportunities to students of Manteno High School.
So our plan for this opportunity is to go to parks such as like Eddie Reed, Wright Park, or Thies, or some other parks around town, because we have a lot, to keep them clean, clean up trash, maintain debris, and just the cleanliness and appearance of the parks. This would give our members a lot of opportunities to volunteer for the community while cleaning up the parks at the same time.
At each event, for the park cleanups, we'd have an executive board member there to keep track of everybody's productivity and how much they clean up.
Yeah, that's all we got really.
That I think is great, and I don't think any of us would be opposed to it. I would just say, get in touch with Hanley to kind of coordinate, so this way they can make sure that you guys have the garbage cans needed and that they're scheduling their employees around what you guys are doing. But other than that, I think it's a great idea. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. It's great to see fine young men here.
Okay, given the agenda items, I'm gonna ask for a motion to suspend our Property and Recs Committee meeting until the conclusion of the planning and zoning, just so this way we have as many board members as possible for that. So could I have a motion to suspend our meeting?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Todd,
A second.
second by Annette, all in favor? Okay.
All right, I'll open up then the planning and zoning meeting. First item on the agenda is approval of the planning and zoning meeting minutes from October 8th, 2025.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Motion by Joel, second by Zimbelman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I'm gonna kind of jump around a little bit, just to make sure we can get through as much as possible before I have to go to school. So we're gonna start with the code enforcement position. This was something that was on our board agenda, and that me and the mayor talked about beforehand to kind of just dive a little bit deeper in. If you guys all look, I did just kind of write up just kind of a mock plan of what I think would be the best steps to kind of go through if we want to hire this position. With it, obviously, this is step one, deciding if it is a need. A big question I asked when the one guy came in to apply for the position is to Chris, and kind of at numbers of just how many permits have we had, what's the need for it. Was it we are currently paying Chris LaRock about $30,000 to do this job. With the help of some others, it's just to look at, is it a need, can we find one cheaper or at that price with it, and justifying if we are going to pay it more, why we would do so. And then we move on to the next steps of, again, posting the job out, trying to have some appeal, local community, all that kind of stuff, and then we kind of get into this plan.
Couple things I'd add to that, CJ, is it's $30,000, but if we hire someone else, to also add benefits into that. So that $30,000 now bumps up to maybe $40,000. Also, we would have to purchase a code enforcement officer's car because that's something that we've kind of surplused out and do not have at this time. So keep those things in mind as we're analyzing this.
I just think the big thing is to know, and I don't know if you've had time, and it's okay if you haven't, we can talk another time of, do we have like numbers? Because I know like we've talked before at Mr. Berry's last committee meeting that, again, we've only been building like, I think we built 2-3 houses this year too. So those permits are down now. Obviously we've added like apartments, so that's been a lot of work hard with it. But I'm just curious if you feel like the numbers justify its own position without overwhelming your job that you do.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to several board members and told them that at any point that they feel I'm not, capable of doing the job or I'm not keeping up with the workload, that it would not hurt my feelings to hire somebody. But I think between myself and Jim Hanley, we've done a pretty good job of keeping up with the workload. Yeah, new construction is definitely way down. In the past years, we've probably done 5 to 10 houses a year, and I think this year we only have 3 permits for new houses. So that being said, probably the majority of the time that's spent is through the summer doing code enforcement, grass violations. Todd, at the beginning of the year, asked us to start looking at the apartments. There were quite a few that had gotten pretty old, and we've got some landlords that don't live in the area. So we went around and looked at, I think there's a total of 74 apartment buildings in Manteno. Did exterior inspections of all of those, came up with a list of all the code violations that needed to be addressed, sent letters to the landlords, been following up on that. We're down to, I think, 3 properties that still need to be addressed. Issued a couple of in that process, so that was an additional task that we hadn't done in the past. So, but again, I felt I was able to keep up with that. Unless somebody has something specific, I've not heard from members that I'm not doing the job well enough. So I guess I'm not sure why we would be looking to hire somebody, especially at this time of year. Obviously, going into winter, things drop off tremendously. I mean, there's definitely not a whole lot going on right now. So.
Just go ahead, Mayor.
I would like to, since Mr. Kankar, our village attorney, is not here to answer this, I question the legality of having one village employee have 2 jobs. Is it proper to have 2 jobs going to one person? And I know Manteno has done this in the past. We have a history of this. But it does increase their retirement pay. I think that being the administrator is a very important job, and the pay is $132,000. And that's very important that he be in his office answering all the phone calls that come in and taking care of business. And I also know that he has been the code enforcement before he became the administrator, so he does have experience. But I still question whether or not this is the best thing for our town.
And again, I think I'm open to looking. I just do not want to pay someone more than what we're already paying if we're going to try to be fiscally responsible at this time.
We also have a secretary who answers the calls for that department for enforcement and building, and I don't know exactly what her pay is. I couldn't tell you that right now, but add that in too, because if we do hire somebody, that person could take care of both those, answering phone calls and taking care of the inspections. I just think it's something we need to look at a little closer.
And that's fine. I just, as long as we can justify what they are, I'd like to look at area and just see what their pay is. I think a lot of other towns probably have a full-time position. But I would just be curious on the justification of what we have and if it would be cost effective to do it. I get your concern or worried about like 2 jobs, but if it's cheaper for the town, I don't know why it would be bad for us.
Well, if it was illegal, I think Joe would have put an end to it
Correct.
years
I don't
ago.
think it's the legality, I guess it's just maybe the perception of it would be, but still, the code enforcer, I don't guess, if one of us feels like he's not, or I feel like he's abusing his code enforcement duties, that's a different question, but I don't know if that's the case that I've ever seen so far. And I feel like most of the apartments seem to be getting back to you and have a working relationship, and that's a lot of, you know what I mean, so obviously, it seems like that's going fine, and that was kind of the big part this year.
Yeah, I think if we went back to, pre-2008 levels of home building and development, I would see the need for an additional building inspector. I know, being in the business that several of the municipalities that I've dealt with have actually either let building inspectors go or have put them on a part-time basis because there's simply just not enough work for all of them. I don't know at this point, I haven't formulated one way or the other. Today's our first day of discussion. Based on our current workload, is there the need for another employee to do that? I guess that would be my first question.
Well, another question I have is that if we have only 2 or 3 houses, and what is the secretary doing?
So her duties not only are answering the phones and processing the permits, she also does all the filing, she schedules the inspections, she reaches out to the electrical plumbing inspector whenever inspections are called in to get them lined up and timed up to go and do the inspections. So there's a lot more to that job than just sitting there answering the phone, for sure.
But if she's booking appointments on permits and we're only doing 2 to 3 houses a year, it's not like that would be considered a full-time job, correct?
Well, we do a lot more than just the new houses. We have houses and pools and decks and, there's, I think if you look at the quarterly recaps I've done, you'll see the permits haven't really dropped off, just new housing. But we're still doing the same amount of permits a year, pretty close.
And you feel like that's capable with who's doing it right now, based on the workload? It's not taking away from any of, like, Jim or your jobs?
Again, I've not heard from any of the department heads that, that there's an issue with, my running the day-to-day operations, Village Hall. Nobody's expressed any concerns to me that because I'm out doing inspections once in a while that something's happening at Village Hall that needs immediate attention and I'm not there to do it.
That position existed even when you were the code enforcement officer, not when you were doing dual positions, correct?
Correct, yeah. Yeah, we've always had an administrative assistant because, again, we were talking about answering the, if you eliminate the administrative assistant position and you have one guy doing the inspections, well, how's he answering the phone if he's out doing inspections? So, you still got to have both. And then to do all the filing and all the scheduling of inspections and all of that, following up, contractor registrations, those have to, it would be very difficult for one person to do that job.
I don't have anything else on this unless anyone else does at this time.
Do not.
Okay. I'm just gonna keep running down the other ones, then we'll go back to the Goshen presentation. All right, short-term rentals ordinance. Chris, this is just kind of this is a new language for us to.
Yeah, so this was brought up obviously 3 or 4 months ago, something to discuss, looking at the hotels, 2 hotels in town that currently pay those fees and are licensed. This is something that's kind of happening all over the country, that the popularity of the Airbnbs and short-term rentals has, kind of taken over and is definitely giving the hotels a run for their money. We've had a couple of issues in town with Airbnbs, with the police having to go out there. So this was something that came up that maybe we need to license them just so that we have some type of a record of who it is. And when there is an issue that requires police, that they can go out there and they know who to call, that we have a list of the owner of the Airbnb and the contact information so that they can deal with it.
I'm based on this language too, let's say I own 5 houses, I still just have to get one permit every year for
Yeah,
$25
it would-
based on the language of this?
It would license, the operator, regardless of how many properties they have. So it would just be one license fee per operator.
Again, I think this is very low fee for once a year for these people, I think, and I've talked to like Tiffany before, and I feel like this was okay, and I'll be honest with you too, not that we're even talking about it, but like, I don't think I'm a big fan of this short-term rental tax as an option though. I think this ordinance would be fine, plus again, they don't get the property taxes back on these houses, and it seems like they're putting the money back into the houses, and I feel like that to me is enough of a payment to us that they don't need to be paying that whatever the tax add-on. So I think this is a fine thing to regulate it, and again, for those instances like we had over at Eagles Landing one time, that would allow us to be able to combat those from having that stuff.
This doesn't have anything. What about corporate housing?
Corporate housing, I guess, is not considered rental. I don't know. That's something that the,
I find out about that, 'cause I have 3 houses on my block that people come and go on a weekly basis. It'd be nice to know who is actually living in those houses. And I discussed it with representatives, and I haven't heard nothing back. I mean, there's 3 houses in my neighborhood, there's apartments in my neighborhood, and the residents want to know who's living in those houses, quite a few. And I think corporate housing should 100% be on there, because there's rooms, there's bedrooms that were put in there. We have no idea, I mean, if you read the ordinance that we had before about this group home, it says there's a limit to the number of people.
Group homes are different than this.
Okay, well, corporate housing should be on there, there should be something on there about corporate housing.
Is that its own thing, or would that fall under short?
I'd have to check with Joe. I don't know whether, there's a definition for short-term rentals, so we'd have to see if it falls within that. But clear, even with the short-term rentals, you'll know who the owner is. You're not gonna know who's renting it.
Correct, no, yeah, of course,
So-
yeah.
Yeah, we're not gonna be getting that information. It would just simply be who owns and maintains the property.
Is there any other questions on that? I thought this was pretty good language. Again, this is all we kind of wanted, just to have that. Alright. Next up, group ordinance revision.
Yeah, once again, this came up with a special use permit request that came in for a group home. And when that actually started the process, it was determined by the village attorney that our ordinance was written quite a few years ago and no longer was in line with the federal guidelines. So we had them research that, and they came back with the document that I sent to you about a month ago, stating that there are a couple of changes we need to make in our zoning ordinance to be in line with the federal guidelines. That is the definition of what a group home is, and then also that it does not require a special use permit. It is considered a permitted use in the R1 zoning district. And that is federal guidelines, and there's nothing we can do about that.
So no restrictions we could put on if we wanted to.
There are a couple of restrictions. One is that it can't be within, I believe, 600 feet of another one. And then we can also limit the number of occupants in the home, but that's about all that we can put on there. Those things were already in our ordinance, and those will continue to be in there. This just allows it in an R1 without a special use.
This is, to me, again, because this is federal law, so we really can't do anything other than what we're already doing, which is, again, limiting the number if we want to, and then
Yep.
placement.
And our last one we had here, gave the impression that we could say no,
Correct.
and
We
we
can't.
can't. So,
That's just federal law.
Yep. And so you know, this is a zoning text amendment, so this will have to go through the planning commission first to hold a public hearing on it, and then it will go to the board. So whenever we have our next planning commission meeting, that will be on that agenda, and then it will come to the board after that planning commission meeting.
Any questions on that at all?
So if they wanted to have a group home in the middle of, Eagles Landing or wherever, we really have no ability to say yes or no, correct?
Correct. It's going to be considered a permitted use, the same as in the R1, which is single-family zoning. So,
Well, I think that's kind of unfortunate, because when you move into a single-family residence, you expect there to be single-family residents surrounding you.
right, but
I'm certainly not in favor of that, but if we have no ability to prohibit it,
that was exactly what happened, because
Yep.
there were a couple people out in the audience who asked us to look into it at the time. And I called Joe, because I had the same exact argument that you did. Hey, single-family housing, we should expect to be able to live next to it. Can we move it to multifamily, like where it's permitted multifamily? And the federal government won't.
Those protections were put in place because it's considered discrimination. So again, it's federal guidelines. Anybody has a problem with it, they have to go to the federal government and try and get it changed. But the laws were enacted because a lot of people didn't want those homes in their neighborhoods, but because it was considered discrimination, the federal courts decided that it had to be changed and allowed.
Okay, all right, let's go back up then to our first item, the Goshen presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see the board again. I don't think I've talked to you, most of you. Oh, my name is Mark Kriesel. Yeah. So I was invited to give an update. I know we had many of you over to the plant over the summer for a tour. And recently I was asked to come and give an update of where the plant is since that tour. So we put together a small presentation to kind of give everybody a feeling of where we're at the plant as of today. So if you go to the next slide. So right now for the update, you know, it's still the $2 billion private investment that we're making at that facility. It's a state-of-the-art manufacturing facility, and you know, you were able to come in and see some of that facility and the type of manufacturing that we're performing there. We have 5 main production lines right now. So those are the 5 main lines that you either saw running or being installed. That's pack production. So basically taking an already manufactured battery and then assembling it into a final product. So making a module, making a pack, and then making the full-size utility scale containers from what you saw. And we do have a couple of electric vehicle lines that are finishing up their commission now. Those will be in production by the first quarter of next year. Those lines are all flexible though, so there's flexibility built into the manufacturing lines that we have there, so they can either make an energy storage product or they can make an EV product. Up to 3 different products can run down the same line. So, as an example, one of the EV lines will also be making our mobile charger, and those are the you know, the little chargers that you saw at the Oktoberfest, and we have them out by our plant for electric vehicle charging. Next slide. And then this is just what those products look like. So the utility scale energy storage devices are on the top row. They look like one of the pods that you might get for moving, if you're moving your house or something. And they fit on a flatbed and they can travel that way. And then there's smaller, the bottom left is what we call commercial and industrial size, so it's a little bit less energy. But businesses can use those for activities like energy shaving or an additional bump to the power needs that they need in their facility. In the center is our home product line. So those are on Amazon or Walmart. They're called GenDome. And those go all the way up to like 1.5, 15 kilowatts, I believe. And they start as small as like a little phone charger. Those are basically home products, and then the one on the bottom right is the mobile charger that I was just discussing. Next slide. So some of the economic impacts that we've had on the community so far. So right now, we have around 300 employees at the plant. There's 35 more that are going to be coming in the next couple of weeks that were just hired. Our end goal is 2,600, but there'll need to be more development at the plant to get to that final number. For recruiting, 19% of our workforce currently is from Manteno, 62% is from Kankakee County, and 80% of our workforce is from 40 minutes within the plant. So that's kind of been our goal, is to get most of our workforce from the local area. It fits into our philosophy of being a local for local company, and so we're following through on that. Our hourly wages range from an entry rate of a non-skilled worker of $22 an hour up to some of our technicians, which is $44 an hour, and that's just for the hourly workforce. Comprehensive, and we do have very good benefits. I can tell you, I used to work at Stellantis, and they had good benefits there. These are very comparable to the benefits that I had at Stellantis. And then this is kind of hard for everybody to read, but that's just what the pie chart looks like with those numbers broke down on the employee hire and where they're from. So if you look at the orange and the blue, that's Kankakee County and Manteno. Next slide. On the property taxes, so far, we were granted, so there's been an increase of $2 million due to the property taxes that Goshen is paying right now. So if you look at the numbers, in 2023, the Manteno schools, and Andy was kind enough to get with all the individuals and get these numbers for me. But Manteno schools actually doubled our contribution from that property last year from 23 to 24. And the same thing for the fire department. The fire department doubled their take from what that property was giving previously in 2023. Next slide. To address some of the safety concerns, I know when I first came here 2 years ago and presented to the board back then, for the zoning adjustment, we had talked a little bit about safety, but I'll give you an update on where we're at. So the LFP batteries are a little bit different chemistry than NMC batteries. The NMC batteries, I know I showed a little video that night from a YouTube presentation about a puncture test, the difference between what happens when you puncture an LFP battery versus an NMC battery, but they're much, much less volatile. You can puncture this battery, there's really no flames, no fire. The battery does warm up, and there's some steam that comes out, but within 30 minutes, it's back to basically the ambient state of the surroundings. We've been working very closely with the fire department ever since I've been here, and we're currently working and meeting all the 2024 fire codes for battery manufacturing. I believe we're still the first manufacturing plant in the country to be adhering to these codes currently. Hopefully we won't be the last, but I think we are at least the first one that's doing that. For fire prevention, we have a fully installed fire safety system, and it ensures redundancy throughout the plant. So I know I showed you guys when you were there, but I can explain it again. We have a full fire sprinkler fire system that's throughout the whole building that was previous there from Kmart. We changed out all the sprinkler heads to meet the new codes. We installed a new VESDA system where we do store some batteries for manufacturing in the plant. That VESDA system gives us additional detection systems, so it can also detect fumes. So if there's any kind of leaks or anything that was happening on the battery, that system would also detect fumes, not only smoke and heat. We have fire protection extinguishers throughout the plant, the F500, which has been tested with the Manteno Fire Department and is very effective encapsulator. We've also got F500 injectors and for all the fire hoses that we have around the plant, as well as and then each one of our manufacturing, I call it stations or cells. They're enclosed to divide the line up into, maybe 4 modules in each one at a time. And those all have their own fire detection and suppression system as well to keep everything isolated if there were anything to ever happen. Let's see, is there anything else on there? So, and we're also working towards a LEED certification. The LEED certification actually not only encourages but requires you to go beyond like the fire safety codes and the EPA environmental requirements. You have to show more sustainability, more environmental responsibility to be able to get that LEED certification. And as part of our requirement, we're required to get some type of environmental LEED type certification. And LEED, the base level LEED is the one that we're going for right now. We would be the first refurbished plant in the state of Illinois to achieve that. Next slide. And then this is just some of that equipment that I was talking about. Next slide. Some of our community commitments. So not only are we, we're committed to hiring local people, but we really want to be part of the community, because the people that work there are part of the community. We want to be part of the community as well, be a good steward and a good corporate citizen around here. Building a local supply chain, so we're starting to localize our supply chain now. This is not an easy thing. It takes a long time to move your supply chain, especially when suppliers aren't in place for LFP battery technology, right? So we're engaged. We have multiple suppliers from North America identified, and we're starting to bring in some of those components now. So the first one we have is our BMS, which is basically the management system for the batteries. That's being localized to the U.S. We've run some trial material already the last couple weeks, and then we have a container manufacturer that's I think out of the Buffalo area that brought in a container for us to test as well. So we're in the process of bringing that localized supply chain over into the U.S. We've been fostering many small business partnerships, so like with the local gym and the dealerships. These are a couple that just come to the top of my head. Growing local educational programs. So we've started a K through 12 program. So basically what we want to do is create basically a pathway for the children in this community to grow into these high-tech energy type jobs, right? So give them a pathway at least so they can make that decision and stay at home here in the community and either work for Goshen or work for another manufacturer. So we've begun that with talking to the high schools. We've had all the high schools like STEM programs or robot teams. We're actually sponsoring the Bourbonnais robotic team right now. And we're developing that partnership with the Career Center. That'll be the first hub for us to bring some of the high school kids in for potential co-ops starting in January. and also potential internships for the summer as well from the local high schools. And that's connected in with Kankakee Community College, so that's connected in with them. And then once we get that well established, we'll be connecting also with some other four-year universities in the area as well. And then partnered with many local events and celebrations as well. I know many of you know we sponsored the Oktoberfest, but also the Merchant Fair, Merchant Street Festival down in Kankakee, and you know, multiple other events we've been sponsoring around the community and participating in the community to not only support the community, but also to get our employees involved into the community and the community networks. Next slide. And then just some of the dollars spent so far. So, you know, the fire department, as we promised, we transitioned them to the F500 product without them having to pay for it. So we paid for that, about $100,000, a little over $100,000. The patrol vehicle that was donated to the Manteno Police. And, you know, we also donated to the Manteno school system in support of our K through 12 program that we're sponsoring. And then some of the chamber sponsorships as well. So over $400,000. $450,000 has been contributed to the local organization so far. Next slide. And then this is just to finish up. These are the people that work at the plant. So it's really is, if you...
Also on yours, so I'll just move, anyone want to move to adjourn the planning and zoning meeting?
I'll second.
Keski and then Nibbleman. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are reconvening the Property and Rec Committee meeting. The next item on the agenda is the Square on Second Pavilion location. In your packet, there is a diagram that was put together by Carlisle's architectural group. He met with both myself and I asked Peggy to join to kind of get some feedback as to how it would look. I know that in some of the other areas that we had located and discussed, there was some opposition, this was an idea to get maybe some more consensus building around it. So if you look in your packet, you will see that where I and Peggy have recommended that it goes is off to the, the south side of the park, in line with the sidewalk that goes back to the splash pad, would be kind of an entrance right into it. Some of the other things that we talked about was removing the fence that went a viable tree. So one of the suggestions we had for shading, because the overwhelming response that we got from people were that they want seating, shade, and open space. So plant another tree in there and keep the benches around that. And then, excuse me, talked about shade over by the Jumpy Pillow. We've got the picnic benches that are out there, maybe putting some wind sail type shade covering over top of there, as well as on the northeast corner of the property over there by the fireplace. So this way there's plenty of adequate shading and seating around there. So this is a design concept. I guess it's open for discussion. Hopefully this is a compromise. We talked about it being before in the middle, and again, I don't claim to be a designer, so we got someone with some expertise that volunteered their expertise and met with myself and trustee Vaughn. The other thing was the merry-go-round that is kind of in the center of the park right now would be moved to the east side, over there by the tree. So, open for discussions, things that you guys like, dislike.
Joel, the rendering might just be, you know, it's, and I know it's not true to form, but as far as the distance from the back of the pavilion to this fence, does the fence, is there space there, or is it right up to the fence?
It's gonna be pretty tight up to, it'll be enough to be able to walk behind for maintenance issues, but it'll be pretty tight to that.
I guess that would be kind of a little bit of a concern of mine, just simply because of the lack of space there and the lack of ability to get back there to maintain the building. Or, you know, does it just become an area to collect leaves and garbage and?
I think we'd have to still remain, I don't know, code enforcement officers here, what is our setback from that fence area? It would probably have to be 10 foot anyways, wouldn't we?
Yeah, probably 5 feet would be fine. Anything off of, 5 feet off the line would be acceptable.
Is there a doorway or any type of entrance on the back of the building, or just solid wall?
Just solid wall.
The bathrooms will be on the sides, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Just to, you know, if there's enough space for somebody to get back there with a ladder to, you know, access soffit fascia, you know, repairs, or, you know, something of that nature, just, you know, you don't want this much space, but you don't need 20 feet either. So
Correct.
I guess that'd be my only comment on that.
I like it. I like the shade. But I think then when we get that in there, it's gonna look more vivid.
Mike?
But I think that's great. I think the tree would be great. I would just like to see the pricing done on the shade. I don't think that those are crazy expensive. I think they're actually pretty cheap, and that again covers the shading. Now the shading's not only at the pavilion, it's an option, it's also where the people are with their kids under the pillow, and then also one by the splash pad. I think that would be great. I like the suggestion already of the fence going down. I think that's turf would be
Yeah.
smart if it's pretty easy to remove that sidewalk, or with it, I don't see why we wouldn't make that just all turf then. With that, I think that'd be great. Again, it's more space for the kids to play too. We're still offering now bathroom, seating, shading, all that kind of stuff we want to do.
One other item I want to bring up, Jim has mentioned that the current merry-go-round really does not function well at all. So is that something we want to get a price on to replace with a better piece of equipment? Or if we're going to move it, I guess my suggestion would be that we make it a fixed that it's not going to move. It's just going to be a climbing structure at that point, because it just doesn't turn.
We had talked about that, and, I mean, we all think of merry-go-rounds when we were young, but I don't know that that's as popular of a thing now. So we talked with Jim, and to try to be cost-effective, maybe weld that where it's just a climbing feature for them. So it wouldn't be necessarily a merry-go-round as much as a climbing structure, which.
Yeah, because I know they do use it a lot, but, to climb on, so.
Yes.
Yep.
I have a question, so which one are you guys?
This is the whole plan,
the
so
whole-
it's just different views from different,
Oh, it's just, it's the same plan, just different views.
correct,
Okay.
correct. Mike, I know you had some questions and reservations, and at some point in time, we talked about.
There now. Oh, sorry. Yep. No, probably, that's what I think Ty was just talking about, maybe a 5 to 8 foot area there, kind of placing.
This is definitely like, I feel like, people walk, they can sit over there. And I appreciate the time.
Okay, so then, just, Mayor, you,
I approve of it. I think the sales are wonderful. I thank Carlisle for doing this drawing for us.
Okay.
And I think this is good.
so then we can start working on going for bid for moving of the utilities that we need to. Jim, if you could work on getting us bid prices for the sales, because that wasn't included in that, and it's an addition to what we were talking about. And we also talked about the seating, like the seating for underneath the pavilion, and even over by the Jumpy Pillow. We have picnic tables, but the boards are warped and they don't really look all that nice. We talked about maybe getting some table and chairs that'll be a little bit more appealing. So could you start working on getting pricing for that? Because that was not included in our original purchase portion of it. The only other thing that I guess I'll bring up now, our original pricing for the pavilion and what we had ordered was with a regular shingled roof. Jim received a phone call from the manufacturer asking if we were interested in doing a steel roof. Jim, what sort of pricing? It would be an upcharge of $7,000. I told him initially, my thoughts were that we would stay with the regular shingled roof, but how does the rest of the board feel? Do they want a steel roof or do they want a shingled roof?
As far as longevity goes, a steel roof is kind of a lifetime roof. Once it's on, there's very little that's gotta be done to it. So over the course of, however long that pavilion's up, it could well more than pay for itself for $7,000. I would certainly be in favor of doing the steel versus asphalt. I'm good either way, I'm just, voicing the fact that there's no maintenance with steel roof.
Wouldn't one new roof cost $7,000?
Pardon?
If you had to replace the roof in 10 or 20 years, wouldn't that cost at least $7,000?
Yeah,
More.
the, replacing this roof would be more than $7,000.
It makes sense to me.
It is, but I didn't want to give Jim the instructions because it was a controversial debate initially. I wanted to bring it to the board before. If everyone's good with it, we put it on the agenda for Monday and we can move it still to the steel roof. But if there's opposition, I'd rather discuss it now.
Is there a downside to having a steel roof?
And I can see, it's slippery when it gets wet or there's snow on it, but nobody's really gonna be up there when it's raining or snowing, so.
And it's
Other than
noisy
that,
when
I
it
see
rains.
no-
You hear the rain when it's raining. But, Mike, what do you think?
On this, Jim, with the turf that we have, the turf is the main thing.
Where that pavilion is going now, the turf is already been installed, but a section of that. I'd probably have the company come out and do that.
Yeah, cut it. Would you feel that? Were you from the east side then?
A couple of fence panels from
From
both
the
the
east side?
south and will probably be our best bet. Coming in through the alley.
So you'd only have a small amount of tear up for.
Yeah, I'd go with maybe a 15-foot area.
But from where that,
That other piece of turf that we have.
Correct. Yep. So that's on hold until.
that would be replaced, when we pull out that sidewalk, we're gonna replace with the turf that we have from where that sidewalk's getting tore up all the way to the north, correct? That was,
So they end that little small sidewalk.
That north to south, that's blocking off the section going, like where there's a sidewalk going east and west, we'll fence in that area to kind of, just 1 or 2 points of entry. Safety of kids, kind of.
Mike, are you good with the steel roof then to, so,
Well,
let's
Joe,
add
go
that.
steel roof, if that's the route that we're gonna go. This rendering, again, it's a rendering, it's not it's not a blueprint. But, as far as the color of the roof, I know we have some other steel pavilions throughout town. For instance, the gazebo where the farmer's market used to be. I'm pretty sure that's got a steel roof on it. And it's green, if I recall, right? Would we go green with steel roof or to keep everything consistent or?
Most likely, that would be my recommendation, but
We have some time to think about that.
I don't know.
you gotta order it, so.
He's asking for an address the other day, so, we're probably a couple months out still, but I know he did ask me there last week there, and I did talk to Joel, hey, do you want to
How about the Public Works building and the new add-on? That's a green roof, right?
One color make less heat.
It's gonna be back up to
Doesn't matter.
ancient. So,
Since it's in a park, bright colors, aren't bright colors a good idea?
the majority of that park is kind of in, I'm gonna call it the bronzy brown color that we kind of have in like the park benches and stuff, like the fences, that bronzy brown.
But the wind sails we're gonna put up, those are gonna be a bright color, right? I'm thinking red or something.
Orange.
Like right now, the jumping pillow, the colors are blue and
I like vibrant colors, so I'm not opposed to a brighter color than
What
just something
color is
dark.
the, have we picked out the siding? Have we done that, the siding and the brick?
That's gonna,
building is
we're putting some stone to make it match the fireplace and the fence and stuff that's there.
I can get the color sheet and I think I have
Kinda like
green's a pretty solid color. I mean, that's pretty vibrant. I mean, it's not like, I mean, there's probably a blue.
I'd like to get a recommendation also from Carlisle and see what they think.
Is there a copper, like a copper?
No, like copper. Bright copper
You know
or
what I'm
like a
talking
patina
about?
copper of some sort maybe?
Yeah. Trying to think where.
I kind of am more in the green. I like the copper idea, but if it gets darker colors are gonna show more dark dirt and stuff, so.
Right.
And the darker colors will fade much faster as well.
And we could pick up the colors that, like the mayor's talking about in the sails, if you're good with that there, and,
Yes, and I think it could complement, each
Yeah.
side of the park. So if you had red sails, I'd like a red roof.
everyone good with that? We'll put it on the agenda on Monday to vote on the increased cost of it and move forward with it. All right, general discussion.
Just, I know our Public Works meeting is canceled, Jim, with the upcoming holiday. Just a couple of quick updates. Have they started the sewer work over on Lake Heath?
Yeah, they started late last week and hitting it hard the last 2 days. They were potholing yesterday, today. I think they're gonna start boring today and tomorrow. So, yeah, they're moving along on it. I went over and checked on it. All the holes that they have opened up, they have stove fence around them all. Seems like they're doing a pretty neat job, so far so good.
A little bit of a surprise snowstorm there Sunday.
Yeah,
How did everything go?
That held, oh, well, like I say, that held them up a day, but, no, we were ready for it. I mean, they were calling for it, before the weekend, so, trucks were ready to roll. We did a pre-salt application late Sunday afternoon, only because I really knew it was coming. I mean, it was a guaranteed deal. Trucks all worked out, guys worked out. We got a phone call from the police, 1:30, almost 2 o'clock in the morning. Guys were on the road by 2:15, 2:30. Worked out. I mean, luckily it kind of warmed up and a lot of it melted off, kind of, it usually does, but, all the predictions they're saying is we're in for a cold and wet, winter compared to the last couple of years, so we'll see. But, we're good on salt. We've got 360 tons ordered through the state with a 20% variance up and down. Everything's working out. Yep.
Great job, Jim. The guys putting up the lights. I see them putting up the lights.
Yeah, we might be getting a couple Saturdays, try not to do Sundays, but we're pushing it right now. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff that we are also trying to do. We're taking down the veterans banners starting today, flags are coming down. I know it's, you want to keep it up as long as we can, but literally we need to get these, get everything down and lights up for,
Yep.
beginning of next month, so.
Thank you, you and your team.
Guys do a great job. They step up when they need to, that's for sure, I know it.
Mayor?
Peggy Vaughn planned to be here this morning, but she got called into work. So that's That's why she's not here. I don't
Mike,
have anything
anything?
else.
All right, motion to adjourn
A motion?
by Annette.
I'll second.
Second by Crockett. All in favor?
Aye.